The entitled women of today's in a search for attention and validation find themselves on Highway 304, the cheater's highway. Eli, as I sit in this jail cell, I wait for my time before the judge. I called my sister, and she'll get my attorney to be here soon, I'm sure of it. She's a legal secretary for a nice local firm. Tonight, I may have let my jealousy get the best of me. I didn't really have a choice because the choice was made for me by my wife. As we courted, she learned pretty quick that I was the jealous type. More than one fight happened because some guy crossed a line. I wasn't the paranoid type that thinks anytime my wife is late that she's cheating, but she is very attractive, so she gets her share of male attention. Over the years, I have controlled it better. As we neared our 20-year anniversary, our daughter had left the nest for college. Where I thought that we would rekindle the flame of our love, my wife began to pull away from me. A small bit at a time. It had been several months since we had been intimate, and it looked like it was up to me to spark the fire. I own and operate a national chain insurance agency. I have built it to be one of the highest grossing agencies. I have taken the profits and invested in other business and real estate, so taking Friday afternoon office isn't a problem. I made dinner reservations for her favorite restaurant. I stopped to bought her flowers and her favorite wine. I arrived home a few minutes before her normal arrival time from work. She didn't arrive at her normal time. When she was an hour late, I started to worry. I texted over and over for an hour, then I called her phone every 15 minutes, but got her voicemail. I was blowing her phone up. Around 7 p.m., she finally answered in an angry voice. Eli, what do you want? I am having dinner. What do you mean having dinner? Eli, I am on a date, and I might be home later tonight, or maybe tomorrow. She hung up. I called back, and it went to voicemail. My wife forgot two important things. 1, I am a jealous man, and 2, we had Find a Phone apps on our phones, and had it since our daughter was a teenager. I looked for her phone, and it pinged at restaurant only 5 minutes from our house. I grabbed a trash bag from the pantry, and went to our bedroom where I filled it with some of her clothes and undergarments. Tied it off and threw in my trunk. As I drove, I could not decide if my anger was jealousy or angry from disrespect. She and whoever she was with were disrespecting our marriage and me. What kind of man wants to F some other man's wife so bad that it destroys a family and a marriage? I didn't know it now, but I was going to know in a few minutes. A moment of clarity took me. I stopped outside of my car and texted my older sister that I was going to need an attorney, and 2 more words, she cheated. I walked into the restaurant carrying the trash bag. I looked around and I didn't see my wife. The hostess tried to get me out of the restaurant because I barged past her at the hostess station. I took out my phone and dialed my wife. I heard my ringtone ringing and I moved quickly toward it. I saw the man, looking about 10 years younger than me. He was facing me, and my wife had her back to me. He began looking at me as I carried the trash bag and left my side. As I neared the table, he gleamed who I was. He smirked at me. The trash bag dropped to the floor, and without saying a word, I slammed my right fist into his face. Then I slammed my left fist across his chin. He tensed as I grabbed his head and repeatedly beat it down onto the tabletop. Again and again. Her screams at me went to deaf ears. I glanced and looked at the fear in her eyes as I threw her boyfriend onto the restaurant carpet, where I stomped both of his hands before kicking him in the balls with all of my might. This guy wanted to get screwed tonight, but all he got was screwed up. Here's your shit, I said just before 2 cooks and a manager tackled me. They locked me in the manager's office until the police arrived. The police let me speak with my attorney. I had met him several times at my sister's functions. He was a nice man, but had a representative as Mr. Hardass in the courtroom. My sister came with him. I told my side of the story. He nodded that I had no priors and was a business owner in the community. A citizen of good standing, it wouldn't be a problem to get me out. I asked my sister to go to my house and check on things. She had a key. I told her that our home security system had interior cameras that record the entry areas of the house and record audio as well, for her personal and financial safety to stay within those areas. I didn't know what my wife might accuse her of. She pulled a recorder from her handbag, letting me know it wasn't her first rodeo. Sis's boss was now going to be my new personal attorney. He was sharp, as they say. I was released the next day without a bond. He suggested action against my wife's employer. The younger man was the owner's son. Somehow, my attorney had found a lot about him in a short while. Seems that Junior leaves a lot of debris behind him. His father spent a lot of time and money cleaning up after him. My sister picked me up at the station and took me to the impound lot to retrieve my car. She handed the recorder from her visit to the house. She explained that my wife was there when she got there. She told me that my wife wasn't crying, but had been drinking my good stuff. She looked more fearful of me than remorseful. The audio told me the conversation. They each accused the other that they didn't need to be there. I live here, against, my brother threw you out. She badgered my wife like she was an attorney. What was she thinking? You know Eli is a jealous man. There will retribution from Eli. How many men are you banging? How long have you been screwing your boss's son? That one got a look, I'm sure. My wife's answers were not reassuring of my peace of mind. Though she denied other lovers except for my sparring partner. She admitted to flirting with touching and kissing. Spreading bullshit that she began feeling old when our daughter got to be a teenager, and she needed to know that she was still attractive. My sis told her that she didn't believe that bullshit, and she probably didn't want to be there when I got home, and expect divorce papers by midweek. I clicked off the recorder as we sat in the car waiting on mine to be unblocked so I could drive it out. In hindsight, I look back at all the times in our first 10 years when I got into fights with other men over her. Was it started by her flirting? Did the men start the flirting, or did she? For the sake of my daughter, I had tried to not embarrass her by fighting over her mother. She was a kid and didn't understand. A man protects his loved ones. I will eventually have to face her and have a discussion about this. After watching the security video and watching her actually look remorseful when my sister told her to expect divorce papers midweek, I decided to wait a while and let her squirm as long as I can. Maybe a month or two. My stupid wife forgot about our agreement. We had a re-nup agreement which hopefully no judge would overturn, but all it really functioned as was as an infidelity contract. As our assets grew, especially the real estate, I had moved all our assets into a trust with my sister overseeing it. It was in case something happened to the two of us. My insurance business was mine before our marriage and listed in the prenup. Outside of our cash and saving, my wife really didn't have any assets to draw from. The way my wife spends, she will burn through her half in less than 6 months. She could never budget for anything. She going to need a raise at her job. The call to my daughter showed that her mother had already gotten into her head. She was against me. I should forgive her mother's one mistake. I rebutted with, was it really only one time? Or was it she was caught one time? After 15 minutes, I was getting nowhere. I hung up. I wasn't going to get my daughter to my mindset. Liberal brainwashed college kids. I wonder how my daughter is going to pay for college without my help.